Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. It's Father's Day weekend.
Yes, it's our weekend finally.
Okay, so I've been telling everybody this, and this is, so on the national holiday ranking list, we're number 20.
I know. Nobody gives a crap.
Nobody gives a crap.
No.
Well, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. And I know a Google search would like give me what this holiday is, but Arbor Day is celebrated more than Father's Day. I don't even know what that is.
It's like nature, like trees.
Oh, like an arborist. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Columbus Day is celebrated more than...
But trees are more celebrated than dads.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah. Maybe we should start calling our kids like mini acorns or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
The reason I like Father's Day because I know that it means that I'm getting a present.
Yeah.
My family celebrates it well, even though the rest of the world doesn't do very good.
For me, I could care less.
I like getting presents because for me, that means I'm probably getting a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So, like, any excuse to get a pair of shoes is awesome to me. So I could just go, oh, it's... Because then it doesn't feel like, all right, dude, that's excessive. You're just buying shoes.
Yeah.
It was for Father's Day. So this time it was a gift.
I like the appreciation. Don't get me wrong. But I'm at a point in my life to where I don't wait for birthdays. I don't wait for Christmas. I don't wait for Father's Day. If there's something I want, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. Like, I'm 41. Like, I'm not 5.
Yeah, but still, there's something about so I told you we could open up with how we did my Father's Day gift.
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
Megan told me on the way home from softball last night. She was like, I got to figure out what to get you for Father's Day. I said, well, wait a second. You told me 2 weeks ago you got Father's Day already done. She's like, well, I was going to buy you a pair of AirPods, but you've just been using mine, and I don't really use mine, so you don't really need AirPods. I was like, yeah, please don't buy me AirPods. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
I lost one of my AirPods on the way home from California.
Oh, that's
or on the way home from Florida. I got home, and inside my case there was only one AirPod. But I don't use them that much, truthfully, and since I'm the one that lost it, I'll just go buy a corded pair or like a cheap Bluetooth pair. Like, I don't need a $180 set of wireless headphones.
Yeah.
Especially because that's really not what's high on my priority list. So she was telling me the whole way home, she was like, you got to give me some ideas. I said, okay, well, I got all kinds of ideas, stuff that I would like. So I start showing her these different, like, there's all kinds of stuff, like, and it's all over the place. Like, there was different clothes that I wanted, shoes that I wanted. I was really interested in getting some of that. Have you heard of Dr. Squatch? Mm-hmm. Like the soap and all that? Yeah. I wanted to get one of their packs of like some soap, some lotion, and some cologne. So I had all these options, and I was just like, look, I'm just giving you all the options. I just want you to choose. She's like, I don't want to choose. Because here's what she did for Mother's Day. She sent me a link to the white Birkenstocks that she wanted, and she said, buy these. I said, okay, that's it. Like, that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's easy. How she does things, though. I don't like that. I want to be surprised in some way. Like, I don't care to give you the stuff, but just surprise me. Like, put a little bit of effort into it. Well, we looked and looked and looked, and like 5 different times last night, I was like, just buy this, just buy this. And then like 3 seconds later, I'd be like, oh, you know what? Well, what about this too? I'm just trying to give you options, Megan. I just want you to take all the options and just do whatever you want to do. And so we were on the way to work this morning, and I told her, I said, okay, here's an idea. Because she wants me, she was like, look what I did for you. I just sent you a link and said, buy this. Why will you not do that for me? So that's not how I want to do it. I said, so here's my goal, or here's my plan. Pull up one of those randomizers that we use for fundraisers.
Yeah. Just
when we're doing a random draw.
Assign a number to all of these
I said,
items.
I'm going to give you like 6 different gifts.
Yeah.
And whatever it comes up on, that's what it is. And then I didn't pick my own gift, and there's still a sense of surprise.
That's so funny.
So like there was like 6 things. There was 3 different pair of Vomero 5s that I wanted, which she doesn't want to buy them because they're running shoes, and she's like, you don't run. I'm like, yeah, but they're hot shoes. Like and they're supposed to be really good on your feet. So she's like, are you really getting to that point where you're buying stuff? I said, I just preached about that. Yes, I am buying shoes based on comfort.
Yes.
That's why I've been wearing a lot more of the Dunks. I like the Dunks better than I do the Jordans.
Yeah.
Like, I have more Dunks than Jordans now. So there was 3 pairs of Vomero 5s, just different colorways. And, like, 2 of them were pretty spicy. Yeah. They got, like, an all baby blue one and an all, like, bright reddish orange one. I was like, I'm down with those.
Yeah.
And then I had her put just a plain option. Like, all right, it can just be the gray ones. And then I put Dr. Squatch. I was like, I want some lotion, soap, cologne. Add that as one.
You use lotion?
I have a lot, like the last 2 years. It's weird. My elbows get really, really ashy and like dry, especially when I'm coaching baseball. I've noticed this. When I'm out in the sun all day long, by the end of the day, my elbows will get really dry and start to crack and actually start to hurt. So I've been on top of that. Robbing Cheryl's office of her lotion for like 3 years now, because on Sunday mornings is when I shave my head. Yeah, and I don't have lotion at home ever, so I'll come here and I'll put lotion on my head because it's always dry after I shaved it, and it's always hers. And then like if I come back from a weekend of baseball or whatever, my elbows are all jacked up, I'll hop in her office and hit that. So I was like, I need to get some lotion. Yeah, and then I wanted some of their cologne because I've been out of cologne for like 2 years. And so that was on the randomizer. You should have told me.
I got plenty. I'll give you some
cologne.
Yeah,
well, bring it on. I love cologne, but I love it, but I don't prioritize it.
I prioritize it for Sundays. That's the only day that I wear it.
So like I like it, but if I was gonna go, especially right now, I'm like, look, if I could get a pair of shoes or cologne, I'm not gonna choose cologne. Somebody's gonna have to buy it for me. So that was That was the 4th thing. Then I went ahead. The cologne that I actually like is Chrome.
Bro, from the 90s?
Yeah. And so I put a big bottle of that on there as one of the options. And then I was like, do you just want me to throw in one random one that you haven't heard yet? She's like, yeah, definitely throw it in. There's a pair of Halloween Dunks, the cheap pair. There's some of these that are like $400 or $500. There's a $100 pair of Dunks from 2022 that I cannot remember what the name of them is, but they're just real. They're like gray with a green, like Halloween looking green bottom.
Cool. That's cool.
So and they're cheap Dunks. Yeah. I said just throw that one on there. That way there's just a completely random thing that I want, but like haven't even mentioned yet. She hit that randomizer, and I was like, I was so excited. She's like hiding it from me and all this, and it popped up the Halloween Dunks. Nice. So I still didn't get my Vomero 5s, but I am getting the Halloween Dunks I've wanted for like months now. So she ordered them. I was like, yes, that's awesome. Add to the Dunk collection, for sure.
We don't talk about gifts, like for me in the house, just because Erica, if I know that she's up to something, like I'm going to find out what it is. And she hates this about me because she'll go out of her way to try to like make something happen or whatever. And I'm like, dude, she's up to no good. Like, I got to see what's going on. And I'm super nosy with like things like that. And so, like I knew that like for my 40th birthday, like I knew that she was throwing something together for my birthday. What I didn't know was that my parents were coming into town, which was like that was a good one. That was a good surprise.
Yeah. I actually might have a gift for you at my house. I have a pair of 11.5 shoes I need to give away. I think they're 11.5s.
If they're, I fit in 11 or 11.5. It just depends on the shoe.
I think they're an 11.5. I have to check. They might be 12s. I don't ever know what Jeremy gives us. So, but I tried to sell them on StockX and I didn't pay attention to them. At all, and they had definitely been worn. And you can only sell brand new on StockX, so they sent them back to me. So I was like, oh shoot, I just need to give them to somebody.
Was it those New Balance ones?
No, it's a pair of Air Maxes, I think. It's like pure platinum Air Maxes. They're
all white ones?
Yeah. I would rock the crap out of them if I have a baby foot. So
Yeah.
I can't fit in any of those.
Flippers.
Yeah, they would be very big, but they're a sick looking shoe.
Yeah.
For sure. I got to bring those in. They're still in the box from StockX. So yeah, Father's Day weekend
coming up, man. It's a good gig. I like being a dad. It's the older that my kids get, though, the conversations are all.
It's funny.
Wait till you get like a 14-year-old.
Yeah, well, we play this game with ourselves whenever we have young kids. We're like, man, this is really difficult because of this. And it's like what you don't realize till you get there is every stage is difficult. It's just different.
Yeah.
Right? Like when they were really, really little, like it was difficult for a totally different reason than it's difficult now. But it's still difficult. Like they can now take care of themselves. They can find something to eat. They can use a toaster. They can dress themselves. They can shower themselves.
Yeah.
And you think when you're not having to do that stuff for your kids, your life will get so much easier.
No,
now it's like, holy cow, now you're trying to help them make good choices with friends and do schoolwork and balance, like all of this stuff. It's like it never changes. And then like you're in the middle school.
I got one going to high school next year.
You got one going into high school. Yeah, these are totally different problems. That like once, and you think, okay, and then like we probably all have this false sense of, well, once they're 18, everything will be fine.
No, it gets worse.
No, because if you actually like your kids, you're not just going to like ditch them when they're 18. You're going to see to it that they're actually successful human beings.
Yeah,
and then you're going to start the whole process all over again with grandkids.
Yeah.
So like having kids has entered you into a lifelong, battle of being around kids and trying to make sure that they grow up to be healthy, responsible people.
Yeah.
Whether it's your kid, grandkids, like whatever it is. But yeah, it's awesome though because, they look at you get to help somebody do that, which is a fun thing to do in life, to help someone figure out how God made them, what God has for them. And to help them grow into successful, well-adjusted, functioning adults that's a gift that God has blessed us with to do, and so we don't take it lightly.
Yep. Well, we're picking up our conversation on Habakkuk.
Yep.
Habakkuk.
Yeah, we're going with that Nazarene pronunciation, Habakkuk.
Yeah. Habakkuk. Yeah, that's how we said it growing up.
Yeah.
So we got this sense that Habakkuk's, he's like trying to figure out like all these different things. He's trying to question God, and we find out, we learned that this whole book is a conversation between one person and God.
Yeah,
it's the only book of the Bible that is like this. It's a very intriguing book of the Bible, to say the least, because most people, like you said, whenever you get towards the end of the New Testament, you're like, well, I'm just so close to Jesus, and learning about him and reading about his story and everything, I might as well just skip ahead. But there's some...
Yeah, these are the crispy pages.
They're all stuck together.
Yeah, nobody reads them.
Yeah, between Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, and Zechariah.
Although, Habakkuk is probably the one that I've seen most work done on by people. Like, this is a book, like, I preached a series on it. I've seen other people do a series on it.
Yeah.
But it's still part of the crispy pages. Like,
yeah.
In a lot of ways. But, so last week we heard Habakkuk essentially was complaining to God about how wicked and evil and horrible everything is.
Yeah.
And he was essentially asking him, like, are you going to do anything about this?
Yeah.
And we kind of see the parallel for us personally where we go, yeah, I think that we end up there a lot. Like, we look around our world now and we go, do you not see kids starving, school shootings, cancer, geopolitical, just whatever it is. Like, we just look around and we go, like, God, do you not see this? And, like, as Christians, sure, we have ways that we get our mind wrapped around certain things, but, like, the unbelieving world looks and goes, you guys think that there's a God with all the nonsense that's going on around here? And so we're trying to focus in on, as the people of God, how do we handle those situations that arise when, I'm sorry, the little pat church answers just don't work? Like, how do we handle situations when we don't know what to say, when we don't know what's going on, when we can't make sense of it, when nothing makes sense? That's what I see in the book, or the writings of Habakkuk. And so today you said we're going to start with God's response.
Yep.
I'm gonna actually. I brought my Bible. I think I'm gonna start doing this whenever we do the Bible stuff.
Is reading it.
Is actually read the verses.
Yep.
That way, because I'm certain most people are listening to this in their car.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess they might have been familiar with Jonah and the overall story of Jonah to where they didn't need to hear the verses read. But if they have the book of Habakkuk memorized, I'll hire them right now.
Yeah.
They can have my job. If they,
that means you're doing really well in the rest of the Bible.
Yeah, I'm going to read the verses that we're going to talk about. So, Habakkuk had all these questions in the first 4 verses, and then the Lord starts to reply in verse 5. It says, "The Lord replied, 'Look around at the nations, look and be amazed, for I'm doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't even believe, even if someone told you about it.'" Right? So here comes God's promise to Habakkuk. Habakkuk goes, "God, do you not see all the things that are happening? Like, where are you at? Why are you not doing anything?" And God's initial response is this: even when it looks like I'm not doing anything, that nothing is working, whatever it is, be assured I am going to do something.
Yeah.
So I want to make this point to people that when you look around the world and you see all the injustice, you see you fill in the blank with whatever it is that breaks your heart. And you wonder, like, God, are you going to do anything? The answer is a resounding yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is going to do something. This is part of the hopeful view of being a person of faith, is that we know ultimately whether something gets dealt with in this life or when God fully consummates his kingdom here in the new heavens and the new earth, there will be ultimate justice that will be served for every wrong that has ever been committed. God will set everything right. He is going to do something.
Yeah.
That is not the type of hope that you get in other worldviews. If you come at it from an atheistic or an agnostic worldview, you will end up hopeless because you realize there is no absolute justice. Mm-hmm. You either have to become a vigilante unto yourself, or you have to trust that there is a benevolent, just, faithful creator behind everything that one day is going to set everything right. If you do not do that, you will drive yourself mad wondering about, well, what about this guy? What about this? How awful is this? How can these oppressive rulers keep getting away with it? And
once something gets fixed, then you move on to the next thing. Well, what about this guy now? Okay, let's take care of this. And once that's done, then you're like, well, let's take care of this right now.
The promise is I will do something.
Yeah.
The promise is not I will do something in the way that you think that I should do something. And that is the really hard part for humanity to get a hold of.
Yeah. I like that line that says that even if somebody told you, like, you wouldn't even believe it. That's like somebody walking in here right now and just saying, "Hey, Jared, I got you a new car." Be like, "Shut up, dude. Get out of here, bro. Don't waste my time." You're like, "No, like, literally, I did."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I don't believe you." Like, who's going to take that amount of money and buy me a car? Like, that makes zero sense whatsoever in my mind why somebody would do that for me.
Yeah. So God is working on the problem, even though Habakkuk can't see it.
Yeah.
Right. And I know it sounds like, okay, you're going through a tough time, and so you're just supposed to, like, have faith that God's working. And it's like, yes. And I know that still doesn't make your difficult times, or the times where we wonder about the world and things, it doesn't make everything all better. It doesn't make everything just go away. It doesn't make us have none of that. But that's because we don't feel like anything's happening. And whenever we're dealing with, like, what we feel, we have to realize that sometimes there is a truth beyond what we can feel and see. And so sometimes we need to lean much more on the fact that God said that he was working, whether or not we can see it or not. Because it's easy. If I saw God work, like, there's certain situations that you see God working immediately, and you go, see, I can see that. I can see how God is fixing that relationship, or I can see how God's healing that person.
Yeah.
That's easy to see. But whenever it's unseen, whenever he's working on levels and in ways that are beyond our human comprehension, it's very hard to have that same level of faith. But we have to rest assured that God is working.
Yeah.
That he is working.
Yeah, it's you have written here in your notes, it's much harder to trust what cannot be seen and know that he is still working. And I think I've said this to you before, but my mom used to sing this song like whenever churches used to do like the specials and stuff, like during like the offering time or whatever, they'd bring somebody up and they would sing like a song or whatever. And she used to sing the song, God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. Mm-hmm. So when you don't understand, when you can't trace his plan, whenever you can't even trace his hand, trust his heart. Yeah. Because we know that God is ultimately doing and working good things, even though, and I told somebody yesterday, I was like, if I could see what God sees, there would be no trust.
Yes.
I mean, like, I wouldn't have to put my faith and trust in something if I could see the big picture, if I could see all the moving parts. Yeah. But that's just not the place that we are at as Christ followers. We have to just say, God, I know you're doing something. I can't see it. I got to trust you. I have it written down later, but it goes back to this sermon that you preached a couple of weeks, I guess a week or two ago. And it was your fixed faith sermon, versus functional faith. It's sometimes like I've got to continue to do the things that I have been asked to do and trust God. I got to trust that he's working. I've got to trust that he's moving. I got to trust that he is still there. And even in moments that I can't feel him.
Yeah. And we do. You have to remember that it does not impugn the character of God one bit that bad stuff happens. Yeah. Because we don't understand at the level that what God allows, then he ultimately is able to heal and to bring about good from. Yeah. So, like, again, there's people that want to stand on their soapbox and rail against God because of evil and things in this world. And they go, well, you don't understand how it's actually a lot of the evil that's happened in this world that has brought about the greatest advantages for people in the world. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, if it weren't for the fact that that people struggled and suffered in different ways, then we might not feel compelled to move society forward in the ways that we do. And I know it would be very easy for people to go like, oh, well, couldn't God have just created a world where none of that stuff happens? And it's like, not if he wanted to create a world with free beings. That's not the case. And so God can allow things to happen and doesn't necessarily step in the way that we wish that he would step in, but we also don't know how him allowing that to happen will ultimately benefit people years down the road that you may never see or ever hear from or know that it was connected to this one thing here. Right? And so God doesn't have to step in and stop all evil to prove that he is good. He just has to what he does is he continues to use even the bad to bring about more and more good. Yeah. And I know that seems like such a church answer, and it feels like a cop-out, but it's not. It's really not. Because if we don't believe that at our core, that God is a God that can take the worst of situations and bring about good, mm-hmm. then what are we doing? Like, we don't really believe what we say we believe. I mean, the cross is the ultimate picture of that. If God can't bring about the ultimate good from the ultimate bad, then the cross is a complete farce. Yeah. And so even though we go, yeah, but the cross, man, that was totally different. It's like, was it? I mean, the worst possible thing happened to the best possible person and brought about the best possible outcome. And it looked horrible in that moment. Yeah. So you have no idea what your suffering, your pain, or the things that are going on in our world right now, what sort of difference that could be making in the lives of other people somewhere else, somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Just like the death of Jesus is still impacting us 2,000 years later. You have no idea what you're going through right now, how it might impact someone 2,000 years later.
Well, I kind of look at myself whenever I first got saved. Like, I was, obviously, before I met Jesus, I was just such a terrible person and just stealing, addicted. And whenever I started taking this relationship with Jesus super seriously, I lost everything. I lost so many friends, and, having to rely at 20, I don't know, in my early mid-20s, having to rely on my parents to kind of get my feet back up underneath me, which is super humbling and, like a real... I mean, you were in a similar situation. Your whole world is flipped upside down because now that you're a Christ follower, and you're like, okay, God, like I'm trying to do these things and I'm trying to take this seriously. I understand, like, why all these old friends of mine or whatever are starting to badmouth me because I don't go out and party and I don't go out and drink and I don't do these things anymore. Like, all my relationships are falling apart. I can't find a job because the last 10, 11, 12 years of my life have been spent working every single day in a bar, and that's the only thing that I have on my resume. How come I can't do these things, Lord? I'm still chasing after you, but you've got to give me something, having those conversations. But whenever I look back on it, I know that even if I wasn't called into ministry, I knew that I still was going to be able to share my testimony with people and be an encouragement for people that are still going through those things, or on the other side of it, and they were in the same situation, the same shoes that I was walking this situation through. Yeah. And I'm just glad that even though I didn't feel God, I didn't sense it, I knew that he was real because I felt him in that moment whenever I prayed it. But I'm glad that I stuck with it so I can be an encouragement and looking back on the other side of it. So it's just like anything else. Like, if somebody's going through some crazy situation right now and they're like, you're going to be able to tell and share your story about how good God was. And it's funny because then you're going to go back to that verse that's in the right at the beginning of God's response. He's just like, dude, you're not even going to believe like what's going to happen. Yep. And like, after it's all said and done, you're going to look back and go, man, I would have never believed that this is what God had in store. Yeah. I would have never believed that this is what God had in his plans for my life. Like, never in a million years that I think I was ever going to work in a church. I don't know. It wasn't for me because I would rather just be building something or out in the middle of the country around zero people. But God called me to do it, and he's equipped me and given me the tools to do those things. But look at all the good just because I trusted God, even though with all the crap situations that I've been in with different churches, how he's brought 4 years of just incredible and amazing things happening in Charleston, West Virginia, because I continue to trust and put my faith in God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, what we're going to see next is just kind of how wild sometimes the answer can be, because I promise you what God says next is not at all what Habakkuk thought was coming.
Oh, no.
God starts off with like, man, I'm going to do something, and if someone told you about it, you wouldn't even believe it. And this is what he says. The very next verse, and this is wild. And there's so many implications about these verses that we're going to have to get into. He says, I am raising up the Babylonians. So a pagan nation, I am raising them up. They are a cruel and a violent people. They will march across the world and conquer other lands. Habakkuk's like, God, everything's awful. What are you going to do? Allow things to get worse. They are notorious for their cruelty, and they do whatever they like. Their horses are swifter than cheetahs and fiercer than wolves at dusk. Their charioteers charge from far away. Like eagles, they swoop down to devour their prey. On they come, all bent on violence. Their hordes advance like a desert wind, sweeping captives ahead of them like sand. They scoff at kings and princes and scorn all their fortresses. They simply pile ramps of earth against their walls and capture them. They sweep past like the wind and are gone. But they are deeply guilty for their own strength is their God. So Habakkuk asked God, do you not see how bad things are here in Israel? What are you going to do about it? He goes, I'm going to raise up the Babylonians to administer my justice. Now, this is a wild statement. This is the God of all creation going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use one evil nation for my own purposes to administer justice against my people who are being unfaithful. First and foremost, let's start with the way that God handles situations like this post-cross is drastically different than the Old Testament. This is where I see a lot of people make a lot of biblical mistakes and errors, is that they read the Old Testament and then try to act as if this is the same dispensation going on now.
Yeah.
That this is the same way that God is still dealing with people. This is how, like, you got, like, these really just harmful rhetoric going on whenever you remember when you were probably in Texas when it happened. Remember when Houston flooded?
Oh, yeah.
I saw Christians, even some that attended my church at the time, posting that God flooded Houston because of their gay mayor. And I was just dumbfounded at the ignorance behind that statement.
Yeah.
Because I go, no, that's not what God's doing whatsoever. There are just natural consequences of being
on the
certain
coast.
cities on the coast. Or like, it's just, that's not what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like, that is a really, really silly notion to try to go, well, but look what he did in the Old Testament. He goes, yes, that's on the other side of the cross. Here's what most people miss. The Old Covenant, the covenant that God had with Israel, was a blessing and a curse sort of covenant.
Yeah.
He tells them, when you're faithful to me, I will bless you. When you are unfaithful to me, there will be a curse that follows that. That was part of the covenant.
Yeah.
This sort of judgment that will ultimately lead to exile was always the punishment for the people of God in the Old Testament. That is not how God handles things in the new covenant. It is a covenant of grace.
Yeah.
That is not based on. See, the old covenant, you do this is what you get in return. The new covenant, I have done this, so therefore you get everything.
Yeah.
So we cannot make the error. It doesn't mean that the Old Testament doesn't have stuff to say to us about the nature of God or about how God's kingdom is coming through the Jewish Messiah. It doesn't mean that the Old Testament. I'm just saying, do not go to the Old Testament and come up with a theology for the nations about how God is using one nation to punish another nation because they're Muslim or whatever it is. No, that is not the way that the God of the Bible is administering justice at this moment.
If that was the case, then my house would have burned down the second that I moved in it.
Yeah.
Because I fail God every single day.
Well, that's because
it's just like your car just randomly, all the four tires just because we fail God.
Yeah, on a small scale, this is what people do. Like when they're
so stupid.
On a small scale, I remember one time I was ministering to this family who they had a child that was sick. I remember talking to the dad, and he was putting all the blame on himself. It's because I did this and this and this and this. That's why this is happening. And I was thinking, oh, man, why is that your view of God? That you think God gave your child cancer because you made some mistakes in your life?
Yeah.
Like, where would you come up with that?
Yeah.
Why? And this is how people view God.
I know.
Because they don't know how to read the Bible. So I want to make sure that we get that out up front before we deal with this, to let you know that your dog didn't get hit by a car because you
drank too much.
Like that's not that's not how we are in the new covenant of grace, where the only thing that matters is what Jesus did for you.
Yeah. We
are not in a blessing and curse covenant anymore. God is not in that sort of relationship with the creation.
Yeah.
Because of the cross, all of that has been set right and will continue to be set right.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on. Now, is there justice coming for those who remain in an unrepentant state? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But that time is not now. That time is not now. That time will be when Jesus returns to usher in his new heavens and new earth and the final consummation of his kingdom. That is not right now. So do not miss that. It's the way you don't sit there and go, every time that you have a hangnail, it was because you had an impure thought. Like, it's not the way God is operating.
Yeah.
But in the Old Testament, this is something that we saw God regularly do as the part of the blessing and curse covenant that he had with Israel. That he would use, and this, again, instead of impugning God's character in modern times for passages like this, what we should do is stand in awe of the sovereignty of God. Like, have you ever noticed all throughout the scriptures how God used people that were not his people whatsoever to do? It's like, wait, like, it's that sort of stuff that makes you go, maybe we're under value in the sovereignty of God at times, when we go, God is so powerful that he is able to influence the wicked, evil Babylonians to go and to do his bidding. Yeah. Babylon doesn't think that they're going and doing God's bidding, but they are. Yeah. It's the same thing in Luke 2. In those days, Quirinius was governor of Syria, calls for a census to be taken, that all the people will come to their homelands. God literally used a pagan Roman governor to get the Messiah to Bethlehem to be born where the prophecy said. God prophesied that a guy named Cyrus would be the one that would lead Israel out of exile and free them from it. Cyrus was Persian. He was not a Jew. Yeah. God used people that were not even his to do his bidding. So
he didn't even use people in some instances.
Exactly. God, it's like
he used animals.
We drastically underview the sovereignty of God. Yeah. Like, when you see a passage like this, don't ask, did God flood Houston because their mayor is gay? Ask, holy cow, this God is so big, powerful, wise, and strong that he even gets the wicked nations to do his bidding. Yeah. That, like, if anything, that should make you stand in awe of this God. That should make you hit your face before this God long before you try to impugn his character. Like, that's what's going on here. Like, if I were Habakkuk and heard this, I would be like, oh my God, are you I asked you for help, and your version of help is sending Babylon to come and to devour us? Yeah. Yes, because here's what needs to happen sometimes for us to get into the place where God needs us to get, is sometimes we have to go through some stuff. And Israel was so wicked by this point in their history. They had turned their backs over and over and over and over on God that, now God is going to use a pagan nation to come and act as his instrument of justice to get you to a point where you will repent and come back to him, right? You know, both of us have pieces of this in our story. Exile always is the punishment for not wanting to be faithful to God. That goes all the way back to the beginning. Adam and Eve get exiled out of the garden. Cain kills his brother, exiled away from the family. Tower of Babel, they're trying to do stuff that is outside the will of God, exile. They all get sent all over the world. Yeah. Over and over and over, we see that is the punishment for it. It's exile. But it's also the place where God brings his people back from as well. And so exile and being put through those difficult times can serve a purpose, because sometimes particularly hard-headed people like Israel and probably like you and like me, we actually need those difficult times, or else God would have never gotten our attention. Oh, yeah. Until it was a Sunday morning that I had screwed my life up so bad, was laying in bed and felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest, because I realized I'd finally screwed up my life to the point where things would never be the same if something didn't happen. If I hadn't got to that point, I don't know if I would have ever turned around. Yeah. I don't know how much further I would have gone, and maybe even ended up dead or in jail. Yep. But it was because I had this moment of exile where I was totally alone. I'm talking, I could still see that morning in my head. And I know it was a Sunday morning because Megan was here at church because she had gotten saved a couple months before that. She was here at Southridge Church that morning. She's calling my phone all morning long. Hey, where have you been? Where you been? Where you been? You're supposed to be at church. You're supposed to be at church and all this. And I did not make it that morning because of all the horrible decisions I had made the night before. And I've got the weight of the world sitting on my chest. And I'm there in that moment. I'm all alone because I'm fairly certain I'm going to lose everything that I have. That's exile. But if it was not for that, I would have never looked to God. I would have just continued on my own way. If I had kept getting away with it, that's what people are like, well, why does God have to punish Israel? Why can't he just be merciful and gracious? Listen, if I had not got that moment of realization of what was really happening to me, and the thing with exile is it's showing you a temporary version of what will be for eternity if you don't make a change.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to know the best biblical idea of hell, it's exile, because that's been the theme that's been carried on for the unfaithful people all along in this story. It's exile. Yeah. It's ascending away from everything. That's what hell is and will be. It's going to be you being sent away from all the goodness, all the graciousness of the benevolent Creator who loves you and died for you, but you're going to be in some sort of existence exiled away from that goodness, and exiled away from that love. And he lets us experience little portions of that in life now, so the way we can turn to him, that way we don't have to experience it forever. Yeah. And so that right there has to be a very confusing thing for Habakkuk to understand, to go, okay, God, I thought you were going to help us. And he goes, I am. Yeah. I am. And I've got it down here, Isaiah 55, 8-9. It's everyone's favorite passage when it comes to things that we don't understand. Yeah. And it sometimes feels like a cop-out because it's his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. Everything about the way that God processes things and does things is done at a level that in our human capacity we cannot understand. Yeah. And I understand the argument against that, to go, well, that is just really convenient that you have a verse that says when you don't understand, just trust God. That sounds very weak, though. It's not a cop-out. It just demands consistency in our faith. If I actually believe that God is who he says that he is, then that's what's demanded of me. Certainly, this Creator that is eternal and is beyond anything I could comprehend, certainly whenever he does something, he has to have a better reason behind it than what I can come up with in my finite mind. There's no other, so for the consistency of faith, that is what is demanded of me. That is not a cop-out. It means I'm simply trusting that God is actually who he says that he is in the Scriptures. He actually is as the Scriptures describe him. He is eternal. He is wise. He is good. He is benevolent. He is just. He is faithful. And whenever things go in a way that I do not understand, those things still are true about him. His thoughts are not my thoughts. His ways are not my ways. Everything about him is higher and on a different plane of existence and thought and wisdom than I could ever access in the finiteness of myself. So therefore, if I am consistent in my faith, that is demanded of me, that when things don't make sense, that I still trust God. Yeah. Because if I only trust God when things make sense, I don't really trust God. I just trust logic.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. You shared a story with me one time about this guy who used to come here, and he was facing all kinds of legal troubles and spending a significant amount of time in prison for some actions and things that he did, and showed up every Sunday. He was very faithful with doing, just making it came across as something that was very genuine. Reading his Bible, had questions for you, had great conversation. And once all of that stuff kind of was out of his picture because of acquittal or just whatever the situation was, He came one last time and gave you the update, and seen or heard from him since.
Yeah.
It's crazy how, I don't know. For me, if just because of all the things that I've gone through, and it makes it a lot easier to be faithful during those times whenever I didn't understand and I didn't question, to worship and still seek and chase after God whenever everything in my life is going really good.
Yeah.
I know that that's like the opposite, but I guess it's just the way that my mind works. You know, most people just, whenever things are going bad, I just need to trust, and I need to get my act together, because I haven't done, like, just like that same guy, like, it's all because of me. It's all my fault. I got to get back in good standing with God. But for me, it's like, dude, it makes it easier to trust God and to stay with those things during those times where I don't have a whole lot going on. I don't know. Yeah. Just because he was faithful whenever I was in the mud and in the muck.
Absolutely.
That's a good place to stop.
Let's stop there.
Man, I'm looking forward to these conversations, dude.
This was one of my favorite series that I ever did. Because it was the first time I ever dug into Habakkuk. Yeah. And it was just in a time period where there was so much turmoil going on in my own life and in the world that it spoke to me.
All right,
here we go.
Mystery meat time. If you have no idea what the mystery meat is, it's just like a potluck. You're going down the line, you come across this big dish of something just crazy, and you don't know what it is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Same thing with our version of the mystery meat. We have a whole bunch of questions in a jar. They are 90% chosen by artificial intelligence.
I used that last week for the first time.
Oh, it's great.
You know me, I'm not a technology person at all.
It's getting better.
And I had to write interview questions for a video that I'm helping film, and I was like, gosh, that's not really my expertise at all. I'm a content creator, but I'm not let me figure out. So I messaged Megan. I said, can you teach me how to use ChatGPT? At which she laughed at me. Yeah. Because I was like, why is that funny? She's like, it's not that hard. I'm like, well, I've never done it before. Yeah. So she comes in, and I just type in, can you give me a series of questions for this? And I was like, boom. And I looked at it. I was like, oh my gosh, these are fantastic.
The crazy thing is that you can continue to have a conversation with it, and it remembers all your previous responses.
Oh, yeah?
So you said, I really like what you did with question number 5. Can you expound on this and make it a little bit more easier for maybe somebody who doesn't speak in this type of way or whatever? Yeah. And they'll reword it, put it in layman's terms, whatever, and it'll do that. And it'll be like, okay, Scott, we're good to go.
Yeah, I really I see a lot of stuff on social media about AI and how churches should or should not be using it. Yeah. If you're using AI to write sermons, stop it. Yes. Stop it right now. But if you're not using AI to help speed up some of the more mundane stuff that you're doing, start it right now. It would have taken me a day to write 15 questions for this video probably. Oh, yeah. To make sure that they were really good. This thing spit it out in 30 seconds, and I looked at them. I was able to edit them up a little bit to make sure that they worked for our video. Yeah. Found the ones that I liked. Boom. I was done in 10 minutes. Yeah. So, but if you're doing it for content creation like sermons and things like that, stop it. Yes. You cannot sidestep God in the preaching process. Correct. If you need to come up with questions to ask somebody, go ahead. Go if you're a podcaster, need questions, that's what we use them here for. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it'd take me 2 days to fill up this whole thing with questions.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, let's see what it's got for us.
All right. If you could be a professional at any non-traditional sport, what would it be?
Non-traditional sport?
It's a non-traditional sport. So
soccer.
I think you'd be goalie, bruh. And I'm thinking non-traditional, so anything that's on television for the most part, that's on like basketball, that's traditional. Yeah. Baseball, traditional. Football, traditional. Golf, that's traditional. Maybe something that's I don't know. My mind immediately jumped to curling for some reason.
That would be fun. Other than the fact that I don't know that it would be one that would make you get in really good shape.
It would be if you're the broom guy. Like, you know, like you're just the guy that pushes the pucks or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And
they all end up having to play all those roles.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, curling is very cool. There's the U.S. has had a really good team like the last 2 cycles of Olympics.
Yeah.
As well, they did a documentary on Peacock about that team.
Yeah.
Most recently, they did not have a good Olympics this past time that they were there. But curling would be a fun one to be good at. Part of me wants to say like something in the X Games, like being a skateboarder or a BMX biker.
Yeah.
But I assume if I went pro in it, in this scenario, that I would not have the current fears that I have.
Yeah.
Because I would not be able to do it because I'm afraid of heights and I'm afraid of getting hurt. But if I didn't have those 2 fears, like, it would be kind of cool to do, like, the BMX, like, dirt track where they're, like, doing backflips on a bike and all that. Yeah. Like, that would be fun.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty impressive.
Getting in a half pipe on a skateboard or a bike. That stuff looks pretty fun. I'll tell you the other thing that looks fun. I don't know if it's a sport, but I see people doing it a lot on like reels, is those trampolines where they're up on like the big high thing and they bounce and they are trying to come back up and like sometimes they're trying to land in a box or do a different trick or different things like that.
Yeah.
That looks fun too.
Yeah.
Those are my answers.
Yeah.
Extreme sports.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Wakeboarding, snowboarding.
Would chess be considered a sport?
I don't know. I'm already pro at that, though.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I don't know about that.
No, I'm not. My ability with chess is the old adage that everyone uses: if you don't use it, you lose it. I didn't play for like 20 years, so I'm a amateur.
Yeah,
I'm past whatever amateur is, closer to like
beginner.
Yeah, barely play that anymore. So yeah, I'm going with the extreme sports stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything like frisbee golf. I wouldn't do anything that I like. Like people who play frisbee golf, they just need to be prayed for. We went
cricket. Cricket would be fun.
Oh yeah,
I've gotten into cricket a little bit because of there's a YouTube channel that I like, the Warehouse Games.
Oh yeah.
They made a version of cricket that they call Ball and Play. That has made me have an appreciation for cricket, even though I have tried to watch it on like ESPN Plus.
Yeah,
I don't really understand it to this day.
Yeah,
it is so drastically different than baseball.
Oh yeah,
because that's like those are the two that always end up like acting like they're close. They're not at all. They are not at all.
No.
Cricket would be a fun one to be a superstar at.
Racquetball.
Cricket players around the world are like they get paid well.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so that would be fun.
Have you ever heard of this sport? It's called high-a-lie.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
People die.
Yeah, I would not want to be a professional at that.
No, well, I mean, no. You would have a less likelihood of dying if you were like, what's the question say? Yeah, professional.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that even if I was a professional.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
there it is.
There it is. Another episode for you. Appreciate y'all. Hope that you are enjoying this series on Habakkuk. We'll see you next week for another episode. We're continuing our conversation on it, and y'all have a great weekend. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and you can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.